Most men don't lose their closest friends because of an argument. They lose them because both men make the same mistake. And once you see it, you'll start noticing it everywhere. In fact, there's probably someone you're thinking of right now. Someone you'd still call a friend. Someone whose number is still saved in your phone. Someone you haven't actually spoken to in, how long now? 6 months? A year? Maybe even longer. And the strange thing is, nothing happened. No betrayal, no dramatic falling out, no moment you can point to and say, that's where the friendship ended. It just faded, quietly, without either of you meaning for it to. If someone asked today, you'd probably still say you're friends, but when was the last real conversation? Not a birthday comment, not a reaction to an Instagram story, a real conversation. For a lot of men, that's where the realization hits. The friendship didn't end, but somehow it isn't really alive anymore either. And that's a surprisingly painful thing to notice. Because nobody teaches men how to grieve friendships. We talk about breakups, we talk about divorce, we talk about losing family members. But we rarely talk about the strange sadness of realizing that someone who used to be part of your everyday life has slowly become a distant memory. And because we don't talk about it, many men assume they've done something wrong. Maybe they're bad at maintaining friendships. Maybe they're becoming isolated. Maybe everyone else figured something out that they didn't. But what if none of that is true? What if losing touch with friends isn't primarily a personal failure? What if it's a structural problem built into the way many male friendships work? Because once you understand that, a lot of things suddenly start making sense. A sociologist named Jeffrey Grieve spent years studying male friendships, and one of his most important findings was something he called shoulder-to-shoulder friendship. The idea is simple. A lot of male friendships aren't built around conversation, they're built around shared activities. Football, gaming, the gym, school, work, a weekly routine, a place both people keep showing up. And most men assume those activities are simply supporting the friendship. But here's the part almost nobody realizes. For many men, the activity isn't supporting the friendship, the activity is the friendship. That's the hidden mechanism, and once you see it, it's hard to unsee. Think about school. School is basically a friendship factory. You don't have to schedule anything, you don't have to coordinate calendars, you don't have to make plans 3 weeks in advance. You just keep showing up. The friendship happens naturally. The same thing often happens at university, sometimes at work, sometimes through sports teams, sometimes through shared hobbies. The environment does most of the work for you. The friendship is carried by repeated proximity. You see each other often, you share experiences, you accumulate memories. And because it happens so naturally, most people never stop to think about what is actually holding the friendship together. Then life changes, and that's where the trap begins. You graduate, someone moves away, someone gets married, someone becomes a father, work schedules change, responsibilities multiply. Weekends disappear. The gym you used to go to together closes. The football games stop happening. The workplace changes. None of these things is dramatic. They're just normal adult life. But for many male friendships, they're quietly catastrophic. Because they remove the shared structures the friendship depended on. And when the structure disappears, the friendship suddenly has to survive on intention alone. For many men, that's unfamiliar territory. What's interesting is that most men don't even notice this happening at first. The friendship doesn't disappear overnight, it goes dormant. A week becomes a month becomes 6 months, 6 months becomes a year. And all the while, both people still think of each other as friends. That's what makes it so confusing. If the friendship still matters, why isn't anyone doing anything about it? And this is where researchers found something fascinating. When men begin to feel that distance, they often make the same mistake. The mistake I mentioned at the beginning. They do nothing. Not because they don't care, because reaching out feels strangely difficult. You think about sending a message. You even open the chat. Then you start overthinking. What would you say? Hey man, miss talking to you. That feels weird, too serious, too vulnerable, too much. So you tell yourself you'll do it later, tomorrow, next week, when things calm down, when you have more time. And then another month passes. Meanwhile, something very similar is happening on the other side. Your friend is running through the same calculation. He's wondering why you haven't spoken. He's assuming you're busy. He's thinking about reaching out. And he's waiting for the right moment, just like you are. So both people wait, and neither person moves. Not because the friendship stopped mattering, because both people are following the same unspoken rule. Don't be the one who needs something. For a lot of men, that rule runs deeper than they realize. Many boys grow up learning that independence is strength and neediness is weakness. The problem is that friendships require exactly the opposite. At some point, somebody has to be willing to say, "I'd like to see you." Somebody has to take the risk of reaching out first. And while that sounds simple, it can feel surprisingly uncomfortable, especially when months have already passed. The longer the silence lasts, the heavier it becomes. Not because anything bad happened, because now the gap itself feels awkward. And so the friendship drifts further into hibernation. Not dead, just dormant. That's an important distinction, because Oxford psychologist Robin Dunbar, whose research mapped how humans maintain social bonds, found that male friendships tend to be more vulnerable when shared contexts disappear. Women often maintain friendships through regular conversation and emotional contact. Men are more likely to maintain them through shared experiences. So when those shared experiences vanish, the friendship can quietly go offline. But offline doesn't mean gone. And if you've ever reconnected with someone you hadn't seen in years, you already know exactly what I mean. Think about the last time you met up with an old friend. Maybe you were nervous beforehand. Maybe you wondered if it would feel awkward. Maybe you worried that too much time had passed. And then 20 minutes later, you're laughing about the same old stories, finishing each other's sentences, picking up conversations that feel like they were paused rather than ended. That speed tells you something important. The bond didn't disappear, the conditions disappeared. The friendship wasn't destroyed, it simply lost the structure that kept it active. Which brings us to the part most people get wrong. The solution is usually much simpler than you think. You don't need a dramatic conversation. You don't need to call someone and analyze the friendship. You don't need to say, "I feel like we've grown apart." For most men, that approach feels unnatural anyway. What you need is a container, a reason, a shared experience, something concrete. "We should hang out sometime" is not a plan, it's a postponement. "I'm watching the Chelsea game on Saturday, come over." That's a plan. "There's a new place I've been meaning to try. Thursday evening, you in?" That's a plan. "Want to hit the gym this weekend?" That's a plan. The activity becomes the bridge. And often that's all it takes, because the connection is still there. It just needs a reason to wake up. So here's the question I want to leave you with. Is there someone whose number is still in your phone? Someone you'd still call a friend? Someone you haven't spoken to in 6 months, a year, maybe even longer? Not because anything happened, not because of conflict, not because either of you stopped caring, just because life moved. If someone came to mind, don't send "we should catch up sometime." Send a time, a place, a reason. See what happens. Because most male friendships don't end with conflict, they end with silence. And silence is one of the few problems that can be solved with a single message. If this video put words to something you felt but never quite understood, share it with someone who might need to hear it too. And if you're interested in understanding the hidden psychological mechanisms that shape male behavior, relationships, and connection, subscribe and join us here at The Decoded Brain. Because the things that shape our lives are often happening beneath our awareness. And once you can see them, you start seeing them everywhere. And here's something worth sitting with before the next video. Men don't just reconnect over anything. There are specific shared experiences that pull men together in a way that almost nothing else can. One of them is sport. And if you've ever been in a room full of men watching a match, properly watching it, the kind where everyone reacts at the same time, you already know what I mean. Next time, we're going to look at what's actually happening in your brain when you watch the World Cup with other men, and why it does something for male connection that a conversation rarely can. Welcome to The Decoded Brain.